Jack Smith basically put together in this indictment, the most historic indictment in the history of this republic, the facts to, send the president of the United States, the former president of the United States, to prison for life.
A few years later.
All right, another Fox News alert just an hour after he sought to dismiss the election interference case against Donald Trump. Jack Smith has now filed a motion with the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals to dismiss the classified documents case against the former president.
Jack Smith now says that the Constitution protects a sitting president. Oh, you don't say. Did he figure that out before or after he realized that prosecuting President Trump would end with him applying for a job at a fast food joint, selling nothing burgers? Jack Smith's prosecutorial career just got deleted faster than Hillary's emails. Now let's enjoy some meltdowns.
Prohibition, of course, being that you don't charge a president-elect or a sitting president. That prohibition is categorical and does not turn on the gravity of the crimes charged, the strength of the government's proof, or the merits of the prosecution, which the government stands fully behind. So while the Trump team will attempt to spin this in the statements, in this statement and in any future statements that they make as a victory for the rule of law and a victory for them, we should obviously remind our viewers that this isn't the government saying they don't stand by their case. They're saying they fully stand behind the evidence that they have. They fully stand behind the case. But because Trump won the election, this can't move forward.
Jack Smith says he stands by his evidence, but Trump says he stands by the door waiting for security to escort Smith out. Oh, these people can't stand that we're taking this win as a win.
With all that's going on in the election, from people speculating on vote tallies and potential for vote manipulation, this dismissal request seems so out of the blue. I just can't. I know that a lot of people might have been speculating that this was coming, but to me, God, it just feels so incredibly wrong.
In today's I Hate It Here news, Jack Smith has officially filed to dismiss the DC insurrection case against Trump. We knew it was coming, but it doesn't make it any less frustrating that it's actually happened. So yeah, just another day where justice will never be served against a rich white man. This man is never going to face accountability for his actions. He never has and he never will. And it's so infuriating to me that he just keeps getting away with this. He ran for his freedom. We had somebody that was running for ours. And this country couldn't pull their heads out of their ass long enough to vote for her.
We're coming on the air with breaking news about President-elect Donald Trump. The Justice Department Special Counsel Jack Smith just filed a motion to dismiss the federal criminal case against the president-elect.
Given that Trump is president-elect, they said that the department believed that this case must be dismissed prior to the inauguration.
DOJ guidelines mandate that you can't prosecute a sitting president, but could they bring this case back after Trump leaves office?
It's extremely unlikely that will happen.
These charges were filed more than a year and a half ago, and a lot of work went into this.
Yeah, I mean, this must be devastating for the special counsel, Jack Smith.
I think it is a shame for justice in this country. It establishes that Donald Trump is above the law.
Actually, in many ways, the president is above the law. You don't have the ability to pardon somebody, and you also don't have the ability to not be indicted as long as you're at work. You don't have diplomatic immunity. The office of the president is something that is just very different legally than what the rest of us enjoy.
Your reaction to Jack Smith announcing that he will file to dismiss the charges in the election subversion case against former President Trump?
Well, look, I certainly understand why he did it, given the Department of Justice policy that you cannot prosecute a sitting president. I think it is a shame for justice in this country. It establishes that Donald Trump is above the law. The Supreme Court put him above the law in that opinion that Paula just mentioned. But now he appears to escape full accountability for what were crimes charged by a grand jury. And I would just add one other thing that we ought to pay close attention to. We cannot normalize the fact that Donald Trump, as the president-elect, should not be held accountable for crimes that he committed before. If he were to have fired the special counsel, that would be a gross abdication of the independence of the Department of Justice. And if the shoe were on the other foot, for example, and Joe Biden were to have fired David Weiss, who clearly had a politicized investigation because the House Republicans effectively scuttled a plea agreement, everyone would be up in arms. So let's make sure that we don't normalize Donald Trump's political partisan behavior that has no place under our rule of law.
Congressman, you know that the American people were well aware of the charges that Donald Trump was facing in this case and several others. What do you make of the argument that they essentially served as a jury, and by re-electing him and now making him president-elect, they have weighed in on these matters?
I don't give any credence to that argument. I think what was very clear is that people voted for Donald Trump because they thought that he was going to improve the lives of the middle class, and perhaps in addition that he would secure the border. They did not vote for him to dismantle our democracy, to attack the Constitution, to politicize all of our agencies, and certainly not as a referendum on his criminal cases. Those cases should have been played out in a court of law. I believe the Attorney General should have started the investigation a lot earlier. I believe the Supreme Court should have moved much quicker in its opinion. And Donald Trump should not have been able to run out the clock on these charges. But I certainly don't think anything that came from the election was a reflection of support for Donald Trump getting rid of these cases, largely because the American people, as you and I, as well, we don't know what the actual evidence is.
I love this meme here. I'm telling you, we've got Trump this time. But just look at this. 2017, Comey will get Trump. 2018, Mueller will get Trump. 2019, Avenatti will get Trump. 2020, A.G. James will get Trump. 2021, A.G. Garland will get Trump. 2022, Smith probe will get Trump. 2023, DA Fannie Willis will get Trump. 2024, DA Alvin Bragg will get Trump. I think we're missing Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen and a couple others from this list, but you get the point. Jack Smith's rock-solid case has disappeared faster than a Democrat campaign promise. Even though that's happened, that does not mean that Trump is out of legal trouble. We still have New York's Alvin Bragg and Dirty Fannie Willis hoping that they can just keep their cases on ice for the next 4 years and pick them up once Trump is out of office. But legal experts are questioning if either of those things are even feasible, because it can leave the president in a situation where it seems like he's being extorted by certain states. Like, oh, if he doesn't do everything that New York says or New York wants, then they can pick this case up. Same thing with Georgia. And unfortunately, Jack Smith's January 6th case was dismissed without prejudice, meaning that they could bring it up at a later date.
District Attorney Ellie Honig is with us, I should point out. We got the letter from the DA here. No surprise that they're not eager to let this go. And they point out in their letter that there's no law that currently establishes that a president's immunity comes that it requires the dismissal of a post-trial criminal proceeding. In other words, there's nothing in the Supreme Court's ruling that gives a president immunity for being found guilty of something before he was president, let alone for acts that may not be deemed official. Suffice to say, this is complicated.
Yeah, Boris, this is brand new territory. This is the crazy law school hypothetical come to life. We've never had a situation anything like this. But to your question, I see two major takeaways from this filing we just got from the DA. First of all, the DA is okay with adjourning this sentencing indefinitely, which means it will not happen before he takes office if the judge agrees. Kara makes a very important point. This is just the DA's position. Ultimately, it's up to the judge. But the second thing that really jumps out at me is the DA in this letter says what you just said, Boris, about immunity, that it doesn't necessarily cover post-trial proceedings. And so the DA floats the possibility in their letter. They say we want to look into various options, including possibly having his sentencing happen in 2029 when he's done his second term as president. To me, that is a preposterous suggestion just as a practical matter. You can't put off sentence 4+ years. I think Donald Trump would have a very strong argument when this day comes, when he's 82 years old and finishing up his second term, that's just too long to wait. But again, this is all unknown. This is all brand new. But I found that really interesting to see that the DA is actually floating the possibility of pushing sentencing till January 21st, I guess, of 2029.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what the practical effect was of pushing something 4 years to when someone's an octogenarian, but it's like you're psychic, Ellie.
The other big hallmark case, obviously, is still also ongoing, so tell me what you can about it. But, you know, with the re-election of now President-elect Donald Trump, he was also at the center of the election indictment. What do you do now? Because we've got this Supreme Court precedent now that says sitting presidents really can't be charged for some of the things that they did in office. With him now having the protection of the White House, how do you proceed as it relates to just his portion of this case?
I'm not going to talk to you about a case. Let me talk to you about a young lawyer and a lawyer that's got a little age on her. When I became a lawyer, I believe that all the smartest people were the judges, right? That's who rose to the top. I've been a little disheartened as I've gone on to practice law. But what I can tell you about me as a district attorney, I didn't indict anyone who I did not believe committed a crime in any case. And all of our more serious felony cases were indicted because a grand jury decided that there was enough evidence there to indict them. And so it is our plan, if someone has an indictment in this office, no matter who they are, we continue to pursue those charges. I can't be responsible for what judges and what courts will do. That will be decisions that they make, but I hope we get to see a little courage in leaders.
What about no matter how long it takes? Is that something that you think about too?
I'm patient. That's what age teaches you, is patience. I've been patient in the way we do our work, and you know, I'm here for 8 more years is my plan. And so if that's what it takes for us to get justice in some cases, we come to work every day. We'll come to work and look for justice.
I hope Pam Bondi tears all these people a new one. I want to see everybody who was involved with these ridiculous cases charged with, at the bare minimum, election interference. Because that's all this ever was and all it ever could be. But what do you guys think? Do you think that we should be looking forwards and not looking backwards? Or do you think it's time for some good old-fashioned retribution? Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for tuning in to Red Dawn Daily with your host, me, Dawn Marie. And sometimes Leroy. Leroy, what do you want now? What now, Leroy? I'll give you a nice... All I got is this. Oh, you want an ice cube? I got ice cubes. All I have is ice cubes. You want an ice cube, Logan? Never mind.